Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we really plunge into fascinating topics to help you get well-informed, fast. There's something so human about wanting to understand, wanting to connect, especially when we're up against life's biggest challenges. And sometimes, well, the most profound insights, maybe even the keys to transformation, they pop up in unexpected places.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
what's really compelling, I think, is how a book, designed as this kind of roadmap for transformation for a very specific group, how it actually holds lessons that just resonate way beyond that initial audience,
Yeah.
offers real wisdom for, well, pretty much anyone looking for deep personal change.
Absolutely. So today we're taking that deep dive into the world of Narcotics Anonymous, NA, through excerpts from their foundational text, the Narcotics Anonymous Basic Text. And this, it really isn't just a book. It feels more like a testament to human resilience, a proven path to recovery. Our goal here is really to unpack the core principles, the shared experiences of NA, kind of give you a shortcut to understanding this powerful process. We'll look at who NA is for, how the program actually works, the vital role community plays, and just the surprising depth of resilience you find in its pages.
And what's fascinating, like you said, is how universal these lessons often turn out to be, even if you don't personally identify as an addict.
So let's start at the beginning. What is Narcotics Anonymous, fundamentally?
Well, NA defines itself pretty simply as a fellowship of men and women who are learning to live without drugs. It's strictly nonprofit, importantly. No dues, no fees, none of that.
Yeah.
The unique price of membership, as the text puts it, is basically just the pain of addiction. It's a community built entirely on that shared starting point.
And that shared experience, it seems to run incredibly deep. I noticed this foundational text. It openly acknowledges a huge debt, a lot of gratitude to Alcoholics Anonymous. It notes AA showed recovery was possible for, what was it, more than 1 million people. That's some legacy to build on.
It really is. It showed recovery wasn't just this hopeful idea, but something tangible, something real. And the basic text itself, yeah, it's absolutely central to the fellowship. You see it everywhere. It's read in meetings. It's on the literature tables. It's been this constant in recovery for members for decades
Sounds
now.
1983, right, the first edition.
That's right. Published first in '83, and it's gone through, I think, 6 editions now, plus an EPUB version came out in 2012. So it keeps adapting, but holds on to that core message.
And when you look at the growth,
Yeah.
wow, it gets really compelling. Back in 1982, when the basic text was approved, there were only about, 2,700 weekly meetings globally?
Yeah, around that number.
Tiny compared to now.
And today,
Yeah.
it's nearly 67,000 weekly meetings. In 139 countries, 81 languages spoken. The basic text itself is translated into 29 languages. I mean,
Yeah.
how did that happen? How did NA achieve that kind of phenomenal reach? Well, I think it tells us the book provided this really consistent, accessible message that allowed the fellowship to just scale exponentially. Yeah. That staggering growth, it isn't just numbers, It's a profound lesson in how a simple, consistent message put down in an accessible text can become this almost viral engine for social transformation.
Huh. Standardized knowledge empowering a decentralized movement. That's interesting.
Exactly. And it's also really crucial to challenge that old stereotype of the typical NA candidate. The text mentions urban criminal, a needle user.
Yeah.
But it makes the point that addiction is a disease that does not discriminate, and neither does the program of NA.
Right. So who are the members then?
They're everybody. They're professionals and parents and students living in all sorts of communities worldwide. It doesn't matter what specific drugs they used. The fellowship is incredibly diverse. Really, it welcomes anyone with just that desire to stop using.
Okay, so let's unpack how that actually works for someone. The core, as you mentioned, is the 12 steps. The text calls them positive tools that make our recovery possible, and a proven plan for daily recovery. But it also wisely notes, it sounds like a big order, but the advice is easy does it.
Yeah, that easy does it is key. And underpinning these steps are those 3 indispensable spiritual principles:
Yeah.
honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And these aren't just like nice words. They're the bedrock of any real personal transformation, I think.
How so?
Well, they reveal that true change doesn't just start with willpower alone. It starts with this kind of radical vulnerability, right?
Yeah.
An openness to uncomfortable truths, maybe,
Right.
and just a willingness to step into the unknown.
Okay, so the heart of this, the engine, is those 12 steps. It kicks off, maybe surprisingly for some, with step 1. Members admit we are powerless over our addiction, that our lives had become unmanageable.
That powerlessness piece is huge.
The text talks about selective thinking, even a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing happening, where addicts, quote, Forgot how to work. We forgot how to play. We forgot how to express ourselves and how to show concern for others. We forgot how to feel.
Hmm.
So how does the basic text help people square that initial admission of powerlessness with eventually reclaiming their lives?
Well, that's the paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
It seems the power actually comes from surrendering that illusion of control. Take that story, Brazilian, full of it. She was an entertainer, traveled everywhere, but just found isolation. Addiction consumed her life until she was truly powerless and my life was unmanageable.
Hmm.
It wasn't about where she was, it was her internal state.
Right?
So the book helps them see that admitting powerlessness isn't weakness. It's actually the very first step towards reclaiming true power over their own lives.
That really shows how deeply addiction can warp your reality. Okay, so after that admission, step 2 follows naturally. Members came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. The text says, this step fills that void left by step 1, and it involves noticing coincidences and miracles happening in our lives. What makes this power greater than ourselves work even for people who aren't traditionally religious?
That's where the sort of genius of NA's higher power concept comes in, I think. There's that story, Atheists Recover, too. It really shows how the process itself, the spiritual principles of NA, can become a power greater than himself. It proves recovery is possible without a God. It's like a masterclass in psychological liberation.
How do you mean?
Well, it invites members to surrender control to something beyond their own will, which, let's face it, was often self-destructive. And that offers this path to humility, a release from that exhausting burden of trying to manage everything yourself, which is powerful for anyone facing big problems, really.
Makes sense. And with that belief starting to form, step 3 is, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. The text stresses this is a decision that implies action. It's based on faith, leading to the relief of letting go and letting God. Active surrender, not just giving up.
Exactly. And you see this in the story of the Orthodox Jewish addict. Despite his background, he found a new relationship with the God of his understanding. He even prayed, P.S., please help me get honest, which I love. He realized God did not let me fly in the way he thought he should, but God did provide a path to recovery. It shows that flexibility, that emphasis on individual understanding.
Okay, so that's the foundation. Then you get into steps 4 and 5. Step 4 is making a searching and fearless moral inventory. The text is clear. It's not a confession, but a tool to grow and to gain strength and insight, letting members let go of fear.
Right. It's a personal tool first.
And then step 5 is sharing that inventory with another person, which helps people realize we are not unique. How does that process, which sounds, well, deeply uncomfortable, lead to liberation?
Yeah, it definitely can be uncomfortable. But it's really about shedding the weight of the past, like the Breath of Life member. Even living in a remote corner of paradise, she found freedom through fearless inventory work. Her realization was, clean is the new high. It's just this profound act of self-honesty that lets them move forward without being so burdened.
Then come steps 6 and 7, becoming entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character and then humbly asking for their removal. It's about being willing to change internally once you see what needs to change.
Willingness again. And following that, steps 8 and 9 focus on making amends. Members make a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. This is described as the test of our newfound humility. And it starts that whole process of forgiveness.
Forgiveness, how does that unfold?
Well, the text says, we forgive others. Possibly we are forgiven. And finally, we forgive ourselves and learn how to live in the world. It's this powerful cycle of taking responsibility and finding healing.
Wow. That story, the point, is really striking here. An addict makes amends to his friend's mother years after the friend died. He found it an incredible healing experience and then had this spiritual awakening moment, realizing his friend's ashes were spread right there, where he'd found some peace.
Yeah, it connects the personal healing to something almost bigger, mystical even. And that's kind of the essence of the program, isn't it? Finding meaning in these unexpected places. If those early steps are about dismantling the old self and building a new foundation, then the later steps, like 10 and 11, they're about rigorous self-maintenance and deepening that spiritual connection.
Okay, so step 10.
Step 10 is about continuous self-correction. We continued to take personal inventory and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. The idea is this frees us from the wreckage of our present by regularly looking at our actions, attitudes, and relationships.
Right, maintaining that awareness, like a constant recalibration. And step 11?
11 focuses on improving conscious contact with our God through prayer and meditation. And again, the text emphasizes it's a spiritual, not a religious program, saying, your will, not mine, be done. Just gets easier over time, apparently.
And all of this leads up to step 12.
Exactly. Step 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to addicts and to practice these principles in all our affairs. It boils down to living the message and helping others. Because, as they say, we can only keep what we have by giving it away. It's gratitude in action.
We see that so powerfully in that story from Iran, the spirit of service.
Yeah.
This member went from being like the most important person in the room to dedicating himself to sponsorship, to service. He saw it as gratitude in action. That's real transformation. Shows the power of selflessness.
Yeah. And beyond that individual journey through the steps, NA just thrives on community. And that's where the 12 traditions come in. Just like the steps bring freedom for the individual, the traditions bring freedom for the group.
How so? What's the core idea?
Well, the first tradition states, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends on NA unity. Unity is paramount.
And that story from rural Illinois really hammers that home, doesn't it? Where members had only one meeting available. It was like either work through your resentment or went out and used. Shows how critical unity was for just survival. The stakes were incredibly high.
For sure. It highlights how that shared purpose can, and maybe must, transcend personal differences. The traditions also talk about group autonomy and service. Each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or NA as a whole. And service committees, offices. They're presented simply as services we use to help us in our recovery and to further the primary purpose of our groups.
What really jumps out at me is NA's commitment to remaining forever non-professional, making sure members help each other as equals, right? Not as paid therapists or counselors, preserving that peer-to-peer thing. Sounds like a cornerstone, but does that create challenges? Maybe for consistency or scaling up?
Oh, I'm sure it presents challenges, yeah. But the shared experience, the trust it builds, that seems irreplaceable. And they protect their reputation fiercely, too. That 10th tradition is very clear. NA has no opinion on outside issues. We don't take sides. We don't have any recommendations. It's all about avoiding controversy to protect the fellowship's survival, keeping the focus solely on their primary purpose.
That seems like a really wise approach for staying focused. So who actually gets to join NA? Is there a barrier to entry?
Nope, not really. The only requirement for membership is simply a desire to stop using. That's it. The text even says you don't have to be clean when we get here, though they do suggest you keep coming back and come back clean. And it's powerfully emphasized over and over that the newcomer is the most important person at any meeting.
That's incredibly welcoming, isn't it? You hear those stories, like the Mexican woman in Restored to Dignity, found on a beach, treated with more love and respect than she ever had been, and that led her to her first meeting.
Yeah, powerful stuff. Or the 61-year-old Never Alone member. He found NA, felt like it was a bunch of young kids, but he learned that the program can help any of us, regardless of age or circumstance.
It just underscores that addiction hits everyone. Doesn't matter who you are or where you come from.
Exactly. And the power of fellowshipping, just that connection, that mutual support, it's truly transformational. Members meet addicts like ourselves who are clean. We watch, listen, and realize that they have found a way to live and enjoy life without drugs. It's about seeing that possibility for yourself.
And sometimes it's just those simple acts of connection, like the Dutch addict in Sandwich. So a simple kindness from another member showed him that he belonged to Narcotics Anonymous, even while he was dealing with fears about his gay identity.
Or the young member in Regardless of Age, he was 16, found that despite the age gaps, the feelings and the spirit were the same in the meetings. It's about that shared humanity, you know, not just the shared addiction.
Okay, so while the transformation stories are really inspiring, NA is also very direct about the realities. Challenges, relapse. The text says addiction is an incurable disease, and yeah, addicts are subject to relapse. It notes relapse is never an accident, but often a sign of reservations in our program, things like avoiding responsibilities or isolating. What's a story that really shows how the fellowship responds when someone does relapse?
Well, the Second Chance story is a pretty stark example of that compassion. This was an addict, 13 years clean, who relapsed. She put it down to dishonesty, complacency, greed, arrogance, judgment, experienced terrifying delusions. But when she came back, she was embraced by the addicts in that room, received nothing but love. It just highlights that incredible non-judgmental support. And then there's the heartbreaking life and death in NA story. A father loses his brother, and his son to addiction, but finds the tools within NA to somehow survive so much loss.
So recovery isn't like this magic shield from life's problems. It sounds like it's more fundamentally about living on life's terms, but doing it clean. The text says members stay clean through the loss of loved ones, serious illnesses, raising children, marriage, divorce, getting an education, pursuing careers, and much more. That's a huge shift in navigating the world.
Exactly right. Look at the Serene Heart story. A member diagnosed with depression and schizophrenia. He learns that, okay, mental illness is an outside issue in NA, but dealing with it in his personal recovery is very much an inside issue for him.
So integrating it.
Integrating it. Or the terminally unique story, a transsexual addict, HIV positive, denied surgery. Instead of using, she built a stronger relationship with a higher power through the program, these aren't just anecdotes, they're testaments to this radical acceptance and adaptation.
And that member from India, just say yes. Believing there are no bad days, only good days and learning days. Trusting the process even when life gets really hard. That's a powerful mindset for anyone facing adversity, addict or not.
Absolutely. And that whole concept of just for today, it's such a powerful mantra for living the program one day at a time, focusing on recovery, faith, connection, just for today. It kind of alleviates that burden of the past and the fear of the future. Present moment living, really, which is key for managing any overwhelming challenge.
And this whole journey, this recovery, it's an ongoing thing, right? A process of spiritual awakening. It allows members to reclaim those higher mental and emotional functions, such as conscience and the ability to love, which the text says were sharply affected by our use of drugs. It's like reclaiming their full humanity bit by bit.
Yeah, it really is. Think about the Awa's unique story. A professional, successful background, but learned he belonged in NA. He actually revised his story for the book just before he passed away. Shows that lifelong commitment. Or the textbook case, an Iroquois descendant. He learned, I am a textbook case, which is good since we have a textbook solution in our basic text. That illustrates this profound self-acceptance and seeing a clear path forward. These stories show how these universal principles just resonate across all kinds of lives.
So this deep dive into Narcotics Anonymous, it really reveals it's offering so much more than just stopping drug use. It's a profound new way of life, isn't it? Rebuilding fractured personalities, replacing loneliness and fear by the love and security of the fellowship. It's this journey from, humiliation and despair to acting as instruments of our higher power.
And if you connect that to the bigger picture, the experiences these NA members share, it doesn't matter about their background or specific struggles. They highlight these universal truths, don't they? About courage, vulnerability, connection, our capacity for transformation. It really underscores that idea that we're never alone in life's struggles and that maybe anything is possible when you're supported by principles and community.
So the final thought then, for you listening. What does all this mean for you? If people can find freedom from something as devastating as addiction through honesty, willingness, and connection, what hidden prisons might be in your life? Could be self-doubt, fear of change, maybe isolation. What might surrender and community unlock for you?